Every great hero needs a villain who doesn't just oppose them, but mirrors them. In the Legend of Zelda series, the antagonists aren't just obstacles to overcome, they're twisted reflections of the very heroes destined to stop them, sharing the same hunger for power, the same unwavering determination, and sometimes even the same tragic flaws. This pattern begins with one game that changed everything about how Nintendo crafted villains, Ocarina of Time. And once this dark mirror was established, it became the blueprint for nearly every major antagonist that followed. The year is 1998. Ocarina of Time introduces players to Ganondorf, the Gerudo King of Thieves, and something feels immediately different about this villain. He's not a mindless monster or a generic Dark Lord. When Link first encounters Ganondorf through the castle window, peering at the young hero while conversing with the King of Hyrule, players witness something unsettling: ambition. Raw, calculated ambition that mirrors exactly what drives Link forward, the pursuit of the Triforce. Link seeks it to protect, Ganondorf seeks it to conquer. Same goal, opposite morality. This is the foundation of the Dark Mirror concept that would define the series. What makes Ganondorf such a revolutionary antagonist is his humanity before his transformation. The game presents him as a charismatic leader who genuinely believes he's justified in his actions. The Gerudo Desert is harsh and unforgiving. His people struggle while Hyrule's royal family lives in prosperity. From his perspective, deceiving the king and claiming the Triforce isn't villainy, it's survival elevated to ambition. This complexity creates an antagonist who shares Link's core trait: determination in the face of overwhelming odds. When Link pulls the Master Sword and Ganondorf seizes the opportunity to enter the Sacred Realm, players see the cost of heroic action twisted into villainous triumph. Link's courage opened the door, Ganondorf's cunning walked through it. The Triforce itself splits based on what each person values most. Link receives the Triforce of Courage, Zelda holds the Triforce of Wisdom, Ganondorf claims the Triforce of Power. This isn't random distribution, it's a perfect representation of how the villain mirrors the hero. Courage without wisdom becomes recklessness, power without courage becomes tyranny, wisdom without power becomes helplessness. The three are bound together, incomplete without each other, eternally chasing balance. Ganondorf's power-hungry nature is the dark reflection of Link's courageous nature. Both are willing to risk everything, to sacrifice whatever necessary to achieve their goals. The difference lies only in what those goals serve. Even Ganondorf's visual design in Ocarina of Time reflects this mirroring. As the Gerudo King, he wears elaborate armor and carries himself with regal bearing, much like how Link eventually dons the green tunic of the hero. Both are warriors, both are leaders of their respective peoples. When Ganondorf transforms to Ganon at the climax of the game, he becomes a beast, a dark echo of Link's primal determination stripped of humanity and reason. This transformation shows what happens when the mirror cracks, the reflection becomes monstrous. But the Dark Mirror concept doesn't begin with Ganondorf. To understand its true origins, players must travel back to the earliest point in the Zelda timeline, Skyward Sword, released in 2011 but taking place at the chronological beginning of the series. Here, the villain Demise establishes the fundamental curse that creates this mirroring effect across millennia. Demise is described in Hyrule Historia as the source of all monsters and the embodiment of the demon tribe's hatred. His design intentionally echoes Ganondorf: red hair, dark skin, imposing stature. This isn't coincidence. Demise is the original and Ganondorf is the echo. When Link defeats Demise in Skyward Sword's conclusion, the Demon King doesn't simply die, he curses Link and Zelda's bloodlines, declaring that his hatred will be reborn across time to eternally pursue those who carry the spirit of the hero and the blood of the goddess. This curse, confirmed in official materials, explains why Ganondorf specifically targets Link and Zelda repeatedly throughout the timeline. The Dark Mirror isn't just narrative design, it's built into the series' fundamental lore. Demise's hatred literally ensures that his reincarnations will be bound to Link's reincarnations, creating an eternal cycle of hero and villain, each reflecting the other across ages. Demise himself serves as Link's dark mirror in Skyward Sword. Both wield powerful swords, both are warriors of legendary capability, both pursue the goddess Hylia, Link to protect her reincarnation as Zelda, Demise to destroy her and claim the Triforce. The final battle between them takes place in a realm stripped of all context, just two warriors and their blades. This symbolically strips away everything except the core truth. They are equals in combat prowess, divided only by their intentions. Moving forward in the timeline to Twilight Princess, released in 2006, players encounter Zant, the self-proclaimed Twilight King. Zant presents one of the most complex dark mirror relationships in the series because he doesn't mirror Link, he mirrors Midna, Link's companion. According to Hyrule Historia, Zant was a servant of the Twilight Realm's royal family who believed he deserved to rule. When passed over for leadership, his resentment consumed him, and he accepted power from Ganondorf to seize the throne by force. Midna's character arc involves reclaiming her true form and her rightful position as the Twilight Princess. Zant's arc is the corruption of that same desire. Both want to rule the Twilight Realm. Both possess magical abilities connected to that realm. Both have been physically transformed. Midna cursed into an imp form, Zant enhanced and empowered by dark magic. The game presents them as two possible outcomes of the same ambition. Midna learns humility and friendship through her journey with Link. Zant surrenders to rage and entitlement, becoming increasingly unhinged as his plans unravel. The twist that Zant draws his power from Ganondorf adds another layer to the mirroring. Ganondorf, imprisoned in the Twilight Realm after his failed conquest in Ocarina of Time, uses Zant as a puppet to escape. Zant believes he's the master of his fate, that he's finally claimed the recognition he deserves. In reality, he's just another reflection, this time of Ganondorf's manipulative nature. Link fights against external manipulation and destiny, choosing his own path. Zant surrenders to manipulation, believing its empowerment. The Dark Mirror shows not just what the hero could become, but what happens when the reflection mistakes shadows for substance. Skyward Sword introduces another memorable antagonist, Ghirahim, the self-proclaimed demon lord. Ghirahim's relationship to Link creates perhaps the most unsettling mirror in the series. Both are utterly dedicated to their goals regarding Zelda. Link protects her across time, sacrificing his own safety repeatedly. Ghirahim pursues her with obsessive determination, intending to use her to resurrect his master, Demise. The game presents their conflict as two warriors equally skilled with blades, equally unwilling to surrender, separated only by their relationship to the same person. What makes Ghirahim particularly effective as a dark mirror is his flamboyant personality contrasted with his brutal efficiency. He's theatrical, dramatic, and openly mocks Link during their encounters. Yet beneath the performance lies genuine threat. Ghirahim is revealed to be the spirit of Demise's sword, a weapon with sentience and purpose. This directly parallels Fi, the spirit of the goddess sword that becomes the master sword. Both are living weapons guiding their wielders. Both exist to serve a greater power. Fi aids Link with logical analysis and support. Ghirahim serves Demise with sadistic pleasure and manipulation. Same function, opposite morality. The game's revelation that Ghirahim is a sword spirit recontextualizes every encounter with him. When Link fights Ghirahim, he's essentially fighting what Fi could become if corrupted, a weapon's purpose twisted into darkness. This creates an existential mirror. What happens when a tool designed for protection becomes an instrument of destruction? The Master Sword's entire purpose is preventing such corruption, making Ghirahim a living warning of what Link's most important tool could theoretically become. Majora's Mask, released in 2000, presents a unique case in the Dark Mirror framework. The main antagonist isn't a person, but an object, the mask itself. The mask contains an ancient evil that possesses the Skull Kid, transforming him from a mischievous forest spirit into a world-ending threat. The game's structure revolves around a 3-day cycle before the moon crashes into Termina, creating constant urgency and repetition. Majora's Mask mirrors Link differently than other villains. The mask represents loss of identity and the burden of transformation, themes Link himself experiences throughout the game. Link uses various masks to transform into different races, Deku Scrub, Goron, and Sora. Each transformation is painful, explicitly shown in unsettling cutscenes. Link sacrifices his own identity temporarily to help others. Majora's Mask has completely consumed its host's identity permanently, turning the Skull Kid into merely a vessel for ancient malice. The game explores what happens when transformation becomes prison rather than tool. Link controls his transformations, choosing when to don masks and when to remove them. The Skull Kid has no such choice. Majora controls him utterly. This creates a dark mirror of agency. Link's journey is about using power responsibly while maintaining his sense of self. Majora's Mask shows the horror of losing that self entirely to power. According to Hyrule Historia, Majora's Mask was used in ancient hexing rituals, suggesting the evil within it comes from accumulated dark practices over unknown centuries. This gives the antagonist a different quality than personal villains like Ganondorf. Majora isn't motivated by ambition or revenge, it simply exists to spread chaos and suffering. This mirrors the impersonal nature of some of Link's trials. Not every challenge the hero faces comes from personal vendetta. Sometimes evil simply exists, requiring heroes to stand against it without the validation of dramatic confrontation. The game's ending reinforces this theme. When Link defeats Majora, the Skull Kid is freed and doesn't even remember his actions while possessed. The true villain, the mask itself, shows Link a brief vision of a lonely child playing before its power manifests for a final battle.
This suggests Majora's evil might originate from loneliness and abandonment, emotions every version of Link experiences. The hero is repeatedly separated from friends, lost in time, thrust into unfamiliar worlds. Majora took that loneliness and transformed it into malice. Link channels it into determination. Same pain, opposite outcomes. A Link Between Worlds, released in 2013, introduces Yuga, an antagonist whose dark mirror qualities focus on artistic obsession and dimensional manipulation. Yuga possesses the power to transform people and objects into paintings, trapping them in two-dimensional space. His ultimate goal is merging with Ganon to obtain perfect power. This obsession with merging and transformation mirrors Link's entire quest in the game, which revolves around transforming into a painting to navigate between Hyrule and Lorule. Yuga's character design deliberately evokes both artist and aristocrat. He's refined, vain, and considers his ability to trap people in paintings as elevating them to art. This twisted aesthetic mirrors how Link uses the painting transformation as a heroic tool. Both characters use the same fundamental ability, moving between dimensions. Link uses it to rescue and restore. Yuga uses it to imprison and collect. The game constantly reminds players that the same power can serve radically different purposes depending on the wielder's intent. The revelation that Yuga seeks to merge with Ganon adds layers to the mirroring. Yuga, for all his power, recognizes he's incomplete. He needs Ganon's strength to achieve his vision. This parallels how Link requires the Master Sword, the Triforce of Courage, and aid from companions to succeed. Neither the hero nor the villain can triumph alone. The difference is that Link builds genuine connections and earns his tools through trials, while Yuga attempts to steal and merge with power, treating even legendary evil as mere material for his ambitions. Lorule's existence as a fallen parallel world to Hyrule creates another level of mirroring. The game presents Lorule's royal family, Princess Hilda and her servant Ravio, as reflections of Zelda and Link. Hilda's desperation to save her dying world drives her to morally questionable decisions, while Ravio's cowardice contrasts with Link's courage. Yuga serves Hilda, positioning him as a dark reflection of Link's service to Zelda. Both are agents of royal will. Link serves with noble courage. Yuga serves with manipulative ambition, planning to betray Hilda once he achieves his goals. Breath of the Wild, released in 2017, revolutionizes the Zelda formula while maintaining the Dark Mirror concept through Calamity Ganon. This incarnation of Ganon abandons human form almost entirely, becoming a primal force of malice and destruction. According to Creating a Champion, Calamity Ganon is described as Ganon having given up on reincarnation, instead manifesting as pure hatred that erupts periodically to destroy Hyrule. This presents perhaps the most philosophical Dark Mirror in the series. Calamity Ganon represents what happens when the cycle of reincarnation breaks down. Demise's curse ensures Ganon's hatred returns eternally, but by Breath of the Wild's era, something has fundamentally changed. Ganon no longer pursues the Triforce or seeks to rule Hyrule, he simply wants to annihilate it. This mirrors Link's own situation in the game, awakening from a century-long slumber with fragmented memories driven by pure instinct to protect Hyrule even when he doesn't fully remember why. Both Link and Calamity Ganon are reduced to their most essential natures. Link is courage incarnate, moving forward despite gaps in his past. Ganon is hatred incarnate, erupting mindlessly against the kingdom. Neither has the complexity of personality seen in previous incarnations. They are archetypal forces in conflict, stripped of everything except their fundamental opposition. The Dark Mirror here reflects the question: if you remove all context, all history, all personality, what remains of hero and villain? The answer is elegant and terrible. Courage versus hatred, protection versus destruction in their purest forms. The divine beasts add another dimension to this mirroring. These ancient machines were created by Hyrule's people to fight Calamity Ganon during his previous appearance, representing ingenuity and preparation. Ganon corrupted them, turning Hyrule's own defenses into weapons against the kingdom. Link's quest involves reclaiming each divine beast, purifying them of malice. This creates a pattern of contamination and cleansing that mirrors the larger conflict. Both sides use the same tools. Victory depends on who controls them. The technology itself is neutral, a mirror that reflects the intent of its wielder. The divine beasts piloting the divine beasts represent another layer of mirroring. Each champion dies fighting Ganon's blights, corrupted manifestations created specifically to counter each pilot. Vifa faces Water Blight Ganon, Daruk confronts Fire Blight Ganon, Rivali battles Wind Blight Ganon, and Urbosa fights Thunder Blight Ganon. These blights are dark mirrors of their champions themselves, using similar elemental powers but twisted into malice. When Link defeats each blight, he's essentially overcoming a corrupted version of his fallen friend's strengths. Tears of the Kingdom, released in 2023, brings Ganondorf back in physical form after Calamity Ganon's defeat. This version of Ganondorf is explicitly the same individual from Ocarina of Time, having been sealed beneath Hyrule Castle for millennia. The game presents his resurrection as inevitable. Seals weaken, evil returns, and the cycle continues. What makes this incarnation particularly interesting is how his character reflects both his original portrayal and the evolution of the series itself. Tears of the Kingdom's Ganondorf possesses a stone containing concentrated secret stone power, which he uses to transform into the Demon King. This directly mirrors Link's own power progression in the game. Link gains abilities from Rauru's arm, accessing powers like Ultra Hand, Fuse, and Recall. Ganondorf wields equivalent dark powers, including the ability to create weapons from gloom and command monsters. The game establishes that both are using ancient Zonai technology and magic, but for opposite purposes. Link builds and creates to solve problems and help communities. Ganondorf destroys and corrupts to spread suffering and claim dominion. The game's narrative reveals that Ganondorf's original sealing came from Rauru, the first king of Hyrule, sacrificing himself to imprison the Demon King. This sacrifice mirrors what Link repeatedly does throughout the series, giving up personal happiness, time, even his own life in some timelines, to protect others. Rauru's choice to seal Ganondorf at the cost of his own life establishes a precedent that echoes through to Link's adventures. Both are willing to sacrifice everything to stop the same enemy. The Dark Mirror here reflects across time itself. Rauru and Link are separated by thousands of years, but united in their willingness to stand against Ganondorf, regardless of personal cost. Ganondorf's dialogue in Tears of the Kingdom reveals his perspective on power and rulership. He genuinely believes in his right to dominate, viewing strength as the only legitimate claim to authority. This creates a dark mirror of Link's own journey to prove himself worthy of wielding the Master Sword. Both must demonstrate capability and determination. Link proves worth through heroic trials, earning trust and aid from others. Ganondorf proves worth through conquest and intimidation, demanding submission. Same concept of proven worthiness, diametrically opposed methods and results. The game's final confrontation presents multiple phases, with Ganondorf transforming into increasingly powerful forms. This escalation mirrors Link's own growth throughout the adventure. As Link gains hearts, stamina, armor, and abilities, Ganondorf grows more desperate and powerful. The final form, Demon Dragon, represents Ganondorf completely surrendering his humanity to become pure power, just as Calamity Ganon did. This transformation is irreversible, meaning Ganondorf sacrifices his very identity for strength. Link repeatedly resists such transformations, choosing to remain himself despite the power that corruption might offer. The Dark Mirror shows the hero what total commitment to power costs, everything that makes a person who they are. Throughout the entire series, this Dark Mirror concept serves a crucial narrative function beyond creating compelling villains. It provides philosophical weight to the conflicts. When Link fights Ganondorf, he's not just battling someone who wants to hurt people, he's confronting what he himself could become if courage twisted into ambition, if protection warped into domination, if the drive to save others transformed into the hunger to control them. Every villain Link faces asks the same implicit question: what separates the hero from the monster? The answer varies by game, but consistently returns to choice and sacrifice. Link chooses to help rather than harm. He sacrifices personal desire for the greater good. He builds connections rather than breaking them. The villains make opposite choices at each turn. Ganondorf chooses power over people. Zant chooses resentment over acceptance. Ghirahim obsesses over Zelda, while Link feels healthy protectiveness. Yuga chooses vanity over humility. Majora chooses chaos over peace. Each villain represents a path Link could walk, but deliberately doesn't. This mirroring also creates personal stakes in every encounter. The conflicts aren't abstract good versus evil, they're intimate reflections of the hero's own journey. When Ganondorf wields the Triforce of Power, it makes Link's Triforce of Courage meaningful by contrast. When Zant seizes the Twilight Throne through treachery, it makes Midna's legitimate claim to leadership significant. When Ghirahim obsesses over Zelda, it makes Link's healthy protectiveness feel earned rather than possessive. The villains define the heroes by showing what the heroes are not. From a game design perspective, the Dark Mirror concept creates memorable boss encounters. Fighting an enemy who uses similar abilities but corrupted versions creates intuitive challenge. Players understand the powers because they've used variants themselves. This makes victories feel more meaningful. Overcoming a dark reflection of the hero's own strengths tests not just combat skill, but strategic thinking and adaptability. The concept also allows Nintendo to explore moral complexity while maintaining the series' fundamental optimism. Zelda games rarely fall into grim dark cynicism. Evil is real, dangerous, and sometimes sympathetic, but good ultimately prevails through courage, wisdom, and power working in harmony. The villain's tragic elements, Ganondorf's initially justified grievances, Zant's denied ambitions, even Majora's implied loneliness, create depth without excusing their actions.
The Dark Mirror shows that understanding evil doesn't mean accepting it. Looking at the series' evolution, the Dark Mirror concept has grown more sophisticated over time. Early games presented simpler conflicts. Ganon wants the Triforce, Link must stop him. As the series matured, villains gained complexity. Ganondorf in Wind Waker laments his desert homeland and admits his motivations came from wanting his people to live in prosperity. Zant's breakdown in Twilight Princess reveals genuine mental instability rather than simple villainy. Ghirahim's revelation as a weapon spirit questions the nature of created evil versus chosen evil. These developments show Nintendo consistently finding new ways to explore the Dark Mirror framework. The timeline splits created by Ocarina of Time's ending allow Nintendo to explore how the same villain becomes different dark mirrors across alternate realities. In the timeline where Link defeats Ganondorf as an adult, Ganon is sealed but eventually breaks free, leading to a link to the past's events. In the timeline where Link is sent back to his childhood, Ganondorf is arrested before his coup succeeds, leading to Twilight Princess. In the timeline where Link falls in battle, Ganon obtains the complete Triforce, leading to a darker series of games. Each timeline presents a different reflection based on which moment of heroism or failure defined that reality. This multiverse approach to dark mirrors creates fascinating possibilities. The same fundamental conflict, Link versus Ganon, produces different outcomes based on specific moments. Small changes ripple across centuries. Link's choices don't just affect the present, they determine which reflection of evil future generations will face. This adds weight to every adventure, suggesting that the hero's actions reverberate through time in ways beyond immediate victory. The consistent presence of the Master Sword across timelines and games serves as a counterpoint to the villain's mirrors. While Ganon reincarnates in various forms, twisted by different circumstances, the Master Sword remains fundamentally unchanged, a weapon designed specifically to repel evil. It's simultaneously a mirror and an anti-mirror, reflecting Link's courage and worthiness while standing in absolute opposition to everything the villains represent. The sword never corrupts, never wavers, never serves evil, making it the one constant in a series defined by cycles and reflections. Future Zelda games will likely continue evolving the dark mirror concept. As gameplay innovations introduce new mechanics, villains will emerge who mirror those mechanics in corrupted ways. If future games emphasize crafting systems, expect villains who pervert creation into destruction. If future games emphasize cooperation, expect antagonists who weaponize betrayal and manipulation. The Dark Mirror adapts to whatever new dimension the series explores, ensuring villains remain relevant to each game's unique identity. The enduring appeal of the Legend of Zelda series rests partially on this sophisticated approach to antagonists. Villains aren't obstacles, they're questions. They ask what heroism means by showing what it isn't. They challenge Link to prove his worthiness by embodying the unworthiness that lurks in every heart. They make victory meaningful by representing genuine threats, not just to Hyrule, but to the ideals that define the hero. The Dark Mirror turns every boss battle into a philosophical debate settled through action rather than words. From the moment Ganondorf first appeared in Ocarina of Time, pursuing the same Triforce Link sought, Nintendo established a framework that would define villains across decades. Each new antagonist adds nuance to the reflection, exploring different aspects of what the hero could become if values shifted, if choices changed, if courage twisted into something darker. The series never exhausts this concept because the fundamental questions remain eternally relevant. What separates heroes from villains when both pursue power? What makes sacrifice noble versus tragic? Where does determination become obsession? These questions don't have simple answers, which is precisely why the Dark Mirror remains such a powerful narrative tool. It transforms Zelda games from simple good versus evil fairy tales into meditations on choice, identity, and the thin line between protection and domination. The villains succeed at making players think, even as Link defeats them in combat. Their legacy isn't just the immediate threat they pose, but the reflection they provide, a constant reminder that heroism is active choice, renewed with every decision, maintained through consistent values even when facing one's own darkest possibilities. The cycle continues because the questions endure. As long as heroes rise to face evil, those heroes will find villains who mirror their strengths, challenge their values, and force them to prove that courage, wisdom, and power can serve light rather than darkness. From Demise's original curse, through Ganondorf's countless resurrections, to whatever threats await in future Hyrules, the Dark Mirror will keep reflecting, showing players not just who their heroes fight against, but who their heroes choose to be. And in that choice, made across timelines, across games, across generations of players, lies the truth that makes The Legend of Zelda legendary.